Meet Leanne and Shanik, the operations lead and the co-founder of Recess. We had a great conversation with them about the concept of play, creative freedom, and community. Now, what is Recess? No, not that Recess. This Recess is a Toronto-based community, and their whole goal is to help people explore their creative curiosity. And they're doing this through workshops, events, and artist pop-ups. And in fact, Emmy and I, we've been part of some of these workshops, and we instantly feel like we're part of the Recess community. Now, there's two big themes we talk about in this episode. The first one is this concept of play and how to incorporate play in our everyday life.
Play is one of the primary ways that children learn. As we get older, however, we begin to worry about the opinions of others, and then gradually we stop playing. Research has shown that adults who make time for play reap the benefits in terms of greater productivity, more creativity, and greater health and happiness.
We were seeing what just playing was doing for us. It was allowing me to meet other people. It was allowing me to just see the joy in other people when they try something and they have that holy shit moment.
Now, the second thing we talk about is community and how important it is for our mental health.
Yeah, we're not meant to be alone. Loneliness is an epidemic now. I think they've officially said it was.
It is an epidemic. And what I find so crazy is that we live in a world where we have so many social media apps that are designed to keep us connected, yet we're not. So the question is community the answer? Shanik, Leanne, thank you guys so much for taking the time to come sit with us, especially on a Saturday. We are currently situated in Recess's studio in the iconic 401 Richmond building. And here's where I want to start the conversation, okay? Whenever I sit with creatives and I have a conversation with them about their beginnings, generally when I have a conversation with them, they tell me that they dabble in different disciplines. And I know, looking into both of your guys' disciplines, you guys have done a lot of different things. But I wonder if there was one discipline or one area where you started that really got you into this creative world. So, Leanne, I know you're thinking.
Yeah.
So I'll start with you. Was there, one specific discipline that kickstarted this whole journey for you?
Yeah. So I'm a classically trained visual artist. And so my beginnings, I guess, was just
noise
I'm not
removal.
sure
Don't worry.
Should
Noise
I
removal.
continue?
Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. So I had started with visual arts. I guess my earliest memory of it is watching or seeing my brother's sketchbooks, and they'd be graffiti. It'd be straight up pieces, not even the throw ups or anything like that, but pieces. And I was like, how do you do any of this? This is crazy. Yeah, I think that's kind of what sparked that sort of interest is how do you do this with crayons? How do you do this? Because you just see metallics and stuff like that. I'm just I don't understand any of this. So that's kind of where I started experimenting with markers and pencils and stuff like that.
Did they teach you, or you just kind of winged it and got inspired?
My brother is also 12 years older than me, so I'm not allowed in his room. And he's I grew up in a very traditional house, so my parents are very you stay away from boys, don't go into your brother's room, he's gonna get mad. So you go in and it smells like cologne, this teenager. Yeah,
actually,
it
first of all,
like cologne.
it at least smells like cologne.
Yeah,
most boys' rooms do not smell
yeah,
like that.
okay,
so.
fair, yeah. So it smells like cologne. There's CDs of hip hop artists everywhere, and burnt CDs and sketchbooks and stuff like that. So he was the inspiration for all of that. I wouldn't know a lot of the things that I know without creeping into his room and seeing the stuff that he has. Everything. So yeah, it was just seeing this sketchbook and being how do I emulate that? And I can't tell anybody that I was in here. So I gotta do this in secret.
It's a great origin story, to be honest.
Yeah.
But looking up at the older brothers, seeing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Trying to do the same.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Shanik, how would you describe your origin story?
Somebody cut me off in a line one time. I think if I go to like the question about creative mediums and stuff, I grew up in a house where there was a lot of like movies, there was a lot of music like all over the house. I think I was telling you yesterday, like my mom would start playing like Enrique or Julio Iglesias or something in the morning, but it would be like that's like the scary music because you're like, we gotta clean today. That's the
Wow, which is crazy. Like as soon as you heard that, you knew like
you're like waking up on a Sunday, you're like, stop, just
Enrique.
I don't need Bailamos today. But I think like we always had like, there would always be like a room with like all these VHS tapes and all sorts of movies and stuff. So I think just like looking at the covers, you know, when you all know like when you grow up and you have those physical movies, you watch them like a million times, like the same ones. So it was just like studying those. And then I think over time that influence of like all this entertainment that was like in our house, I guess, even just like video games, like having like a old NES and things like that, it just always I guess like seeped into my mind, and I always like dreamed up like scenarios of like how I would make like a film scene or how I would do a photo or something like that. And like even when I would play with toys, like in my mind, it would be like I'm making like a movie almost.
You were the main character in your.
I wasn't,
throughout
but
the
it
whole
would be
time.
like, no, it'd be like I'm putting like Leonardo and Raphael in like a different situation or something like that, right? So I think just over time, the imagination was just always going. And then from there, I mean, fast forward a lot of years, but I eventually worked at Future Shop. And
Which is not around anymore, right? It's like,
no, but it's owned by Best Buy, so it's basically Best Buy. It's like Canadian Best Buy, I guess. Mine's actually a subway station now. It turned into the Bond subway station. But from there, I got a discount on a camera that I really wanted. So once I was able to get that, that's when things started to pop off, because that was like the first camera with like HD video on like a DSLR. So that's when I started to shoot like all sorts of things. But I know I left like a big gap between the playing with the Ninja Turtles and the camera.
no, still,
but
it's great. One thing I'm curious about is like you mentioned when we have these like physical movies, we like tend to watch them a lot. What was that one movie for you? Because for me, it was Atlantis. I
that's a good
watched
one.
it so much that the VHS broke, and it was one of those movies where I would like reimagine how I would do it. Or so, what was yours?
I'll give you a story, which is I remember one time, you know when you like have a friend or like an older brother, older cousin or something that like shows you something, and now you're like, that's the coolest thing ever, regardless of what it is. I remember this friend of ours, he was like older than like us as like kids, and one day he was like, let's go watch The Matrix, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but let's just go. And then I was like, holy fuck. I was a kid. I don't know how old I was. When did The Matrix come out? 99 or something? And like, I was just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, what is this? Like, I had no idea what the story was about, anything, but like the slow-mo, bullet time, all that stuff. That shit blew my mind. And so I watched that movie like a million times. Toy Story, I think I'm aging myself, but I saw it in theaters, I remember, like, and that was like, don't say damn. But yeah, I saw it in theaters, and it was like just 3D animation. Also, our house had a lot of Disney movies in general, just a lot of animation movies, so a lot of that. But the Matrix thing, before I got the job at Future Shop, I had an interview at Cineplex. And I don't know if you remember, like they had, I don't know if they still do, the name tags with like the favorite movie. And then that's the last interview question. It usually means like you're good. And then it's like, what's like your favorite movie? And like behind her was a poster of The Matrix. So I just always rolled with like, yeah, it's my favorite. Like, because I was in the interview nervous. I was like, it's that one. It's that.
It's whatever's behind you. Yeah.
But it was, The Matrix was cool to me because it was just different than anything I'd seen. And this is like before I started watching like just like action movies from like Hong Kong and stuff that are like Matrix was influenced by. So that kind of was the gateway into like getting into those like foreign films as well.
Very interesting. Leanne, I want to go back to one of the things that you mentioned, which was you had a very traditional household. How were your parents or your family when it came to you pursuing the creative arts and creative world? The reason I say this is because at times in a traditional household, we hear folks saying, you have to pursue this traditional career or this traditional path. Did you feel that at all with your family?
It's crazy because like I think it was more from my extended family that I got it from, because they're definitely like way more traditional than my parents. My parents are like, we made it to Canada, it's fine, like do whatever you want. That is literally what we came here for. But like it wouldn't be so bad if you like decided to do like doctor, like be a doctor, be a lawyer. That'd be like a lot of money. And I'm just like, I don't know. But like I think that was the problem, was that like the conversation was like open, but it was also like money is a thing that you need in this life. So like on trying to find a career path, it was never I'm going to do the arts. It was like I need to find something that pays enough that I don't hate. And so like my first thought was like, I like art. I'm good at science. So like maybe we'll try architecture. And there's like a very real like architecture to design pipeline these days. Like to ask any designer, like they probably were an architect in a past like life. I have so many architect friends who turn into designers. But yeah, so like that marriage of like you want me to be in science, I'll be in science, but in my own kind of way. And so that was kind of like my box, I guess. Like, yes, we were traditional, but like not too traditional, but because money was such a big deal, like we didn't grow up with a lot of stuff. Like I grew up in a like a family of 6 with like a 2-bedroom apartment. Like we don't have a lot like physically and mentally and like money wise. So like I guess at that point it's just like if I were to pursue the arts, that would be kind of selfish. So like what is the balance of like taking something for myself but also supporting or like
honoring your parents' wishes. Yeah.
But like even now, so like it's funny because like I had told them like, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna be an architect. I want to go to architecture school. Like my one and only like choice was Waterloo, and I'm like, I'm going to Waterloo, and they're like, Waterloo's kind of far. Like, do you want to stay in Toronto? And I'm just like, do you want me to do this or not? Like, so
Shout out Waterloo.
Yeah.
Shout out Waterloo. It's not that far. Guys, it's not that far. People make it seem like it's such a like this like Antarctica place. Like, no.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But I guess like even like back then, like what was there to do in Waterloo?
Yeah,
like I know
so
now
true.
it's just like
So
true.
ramen shops. Yeah. That's great. Good for you guys.
We're coming up.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that already.
Right. So you told your parents architecture in Waterloo.
Yeah.
And they were
Oh
like,
my God. Yeah. So like even now, like there's sometimes like, so how's architecture? And I'm like, no, I'm a graphic designer. Like at the time, like when I had gone to graphic design school, they were like thinking that I was doing architecture, and I'm like, I guess like if you think about it like abstractly, like I am building stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
How did you transition, or was there a transition at all? Like, did you start with architecture school and then transition? Or?
No, so like I didn't even make it to architecture.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It was like I was like I was so hard set on it in high school because like by grade 10 you have to know everything already. So like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do sciences just to be safe, and like architecture is like there. Physics, I think at the time was a prerequisite. So I was just like, okay, let's do this. And then I slept through all my classes. It was like the first class. Like, what do you want from me? And I tried AP Physics. I didn't make it. I told the teacher, I was like, dude, can you just like pull me back? Like, I'll just do like regular physics. And I still failed. So it was just like, I couldn't do it. So like at that point, I kind of like spiraled into something else. And I was just like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And then because I was also in like an arts program, my like communication technology teacher was like, hey, you're like really good with computers and you're really good with art. Why don't you do graphic design? And I was like, I don't know what that is. So like I didn't know what graphic design was. I had to like go back and like do homework. I was like, I guess I could do logos. So like I just, because I was like at this state of like, I'm too tired to think of anything. Like imagine being like a high school student thinking about like all of these things, like your future, like 10, 20, 30 years from now. Like
It's heavy. It's like a
it's
lot of
heavy.
pressure on it.
So like I
Yeah.
spiraled. Like I didn't realize it until like recently that, yeah, like I was straight up depressed and like I was on autopilot for like most of my like early teens and like late 20s. Like I was not thinking for myself, but like he was like, hey, you're really good at this. You should just do the thing. And I'm like, sure, whatever. Like 4 years of graphic design in school and like here we are, right? So
So it actually made me think about like, so you were thinking of architecture and then graphic design and understanding what this all means. When we think about like labels, what would you label? And I want to know from you, Shanik, as well, because I feel like we talk to a lot of people about like, are you a photographer? Are you a designer? We have a friend who I considered an artist, but he doesn't consider himself an artist. He considers himself like a fashion stylist. And so there's like levels to these labels. But what if we said, this is Leanne and Leanne is a blank? What is the label that you are most comfortable giving yourself?
it's funny that you say that because I messaged Shanik like first thing in the morning and be like, yo, I was up all night thinking about how I would like introduce myself. Cause yeah, like the label thing sucks. Like, and I tell a lot of like the conversations that I have with other creatives is like, I don't want to put myself in a box. Like, I don't want to box myself in because the moment I tell you that I'm a designer, that I'm an illustrator, like you're suddenly like zoning me into thing.
Exactly. Until you say, I'm a multidisciplinary artist.
But then they're just like, what does that
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
You know, like tell me more. So like, yeah, like I was like, no, like I think I'm a person. And then it's just like, and then you know that like other people are just like, okay, this person's thinking too hard about what it means to be a creative. And I'm just like, like sure. Like if I had to just like say something to somebody, then yeah, sure. Like I design, I illustrate, I make things, but like, yeah, it's still weird to have to be like, I am a designer, because then like that just means that this is what I do.
Yeah, which we did some research on you and we went on your website and you do a lot of, sorry, no pressure. You do a lot of really cool things. It's product design, web design, illustration, code, event production, operations, like, and all of, I mean, that's to name a few. I feel like there was more on the list, but all of those things pull on very different skills. So I think it's true. It's hard to put yourself in a box. You're just a creative person, a visual designer, visual artist, like so many ways to like bucket it. So Shanik, I want to know from you, like, same question. Is there anything like, are you a filmmaker? Are you a founder? Like, what's that label that you feel most comfortable with?
We laughed because like I always have this issue with people calling me a founder.
Which is crazy because it's in your Instagram bio.
I had to-
I
Right?
called him out for it. I was just like, because like at first it said co-founder, and then I saw it change, and I was like, he's a founder.
I just had to do it to make it easier for people to like know how to approach me with like recess stuff, let's say. Also, I just want to note that it is co-founder because it is Celeste Cole is the other co-founder, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. But in terms of labels and stuff, it's interesting because I think we're all the same. Like in terms of creatives, like we all do 50 things now, right? Like no one just does one thing anymore. And I think that I'm okay with like if you know me as a filmmaker, or if you know me as a photographer, if you know me as like a web designer, whatever, it's fine. If that's the box you want to put me in, if that's how you end up approaching me, it's cool. It's like whatever you want to know me as. I have more of a difficulty talking about like saying what like my label, because people be like, what do you do? And a lot of times now I just sort of just read the context of the situation. So it might be like I'm talking to someone that wants to hire me to do a video, let's say, or I'm talking to someone where I want to do a side project to like profile them or whatever it might be, then it's like, yeah, I make videos, like I'm a videographer. Or if someone approaches us with like a web project or something, like you would say like Leanne does development and I'll do design or whatever that might be. So it's, I don't care whatever people want to say it's fine. Like I think I've always just felt there's like a level of, or I don't want to have a level of like pretentiousness when it comes to like labels. Like I don't want to be like, I'm this filmmaker, so you need to approach me as that. It's just like, I do creative things. You want to be creative. Let's just talk about whatever you want to talk about. If I don't know it, I'll just say I don't know it. Lately, like I'm working on my own website right now and I've kind of positioned it as like community producer. Producer is like the cheat code. If you don't know what to, just
Actually,
say you're
yeah,
a
good
producer and
point.
like
You're
there's
good.
like 50 things you could do under that umbrella. And I worked at like, like a tech company that we literally would have talks about like, what do you want your job title to be? Like, we're just making these things up. It's just as long as you're, whatever the work you're doing, it's like 50 other things, but the label just like, it just helps people understand. That's really all it is. Yeah.
And like, as you think about all these different disciplines, both of you have been, maybe mastering. How do you even choose, like, hey, this sounds interesting. Let me actually like expand on this. Was it trial and error? Like, how does one go from graphic designer to illustrator to maybe a web
Developer, designer.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, did you just like try different things? You're like, oh, I like this.
Can I just note before you say anything that Leanne also makes like keyboard keycap characters?
No, wait, with the nostalgic keyboard things?
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely played around with the I was like,
No, that's like a bot. That one over there is like a bot one. But these guys like customize, like she'll
That's
make like a
so
Pikachu and all this
cool.
shit. Like it's.
that's so cool.
So how do you label yourself?
What's the question again?
What was the question? How do you choose? Like, how do you get interest from graphic design to illustration to keyboards?
I guess it's kind of corny. Like if I feel like it, I'll do it.
Yeah, actually not corny. I feel like that's like the curious, like you're curious. And
Yeah, like I think it took so long for me to get there though, because like a lot of life and a lot of like teaching has always been like it has to be this way. Like you have to go from point A to point B, and like you have to think a certain way and whatever. But like now it's just like, okay, I have no time to like, because if I start thinking about it, then I'll just like overstimulate myself and just not do it at all. So like I am on the camp of like, if I think about doing it, I will do it like now, because if I don't do it, then I won't do it. So like, yeah, like last year, like I had quit my full-time job and like spent time just like doing nothing. And then eventually like a project came on, which is like, hey, you want to do illustration? And I'm just like, do I want to do illustration? Sure, let's do this. And then like I did illustration, I liked it. And then more projects came in. And then eventually I was like, oh my God, I hate this so much. Like, what else can I do? And then I just decided to do something else. Like somebody was like, hey, I need to design an app. And I'm like, do I feel like doing this right now? Like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And now I hate it too. So it's just like, okay, now what's next?
I love that thinking so much because it reminds me a lot about like this podcast is called The Unmastered Tapes because we want to talk to people who are like figuring things out on their journey. And I think when we think about mastery, we think of one thing. Like you're going to master photography before you master like videography or graphic design. But what I love about what's happening here is like, from my perspective, you guys have mastered everything you're in. From my perspective, I look up to the work that you guys do. So I think mastery is like, it's probably very subjective. Subjective is the one where it's biased. Yeah, it's probably a subjective thing, but I love that you're not putting yourself in a box because I think at least sometimes I feel like at work or, on the corporate side, they tell you just focus on one thing, put that in your whatever, put that as your goal and like do that and like master it and then focus on something else. But I think like we're going to get into this concept of play, but like I think that's the beauty of like experimentation, because you can try illustration, figure out that, okay, I've done it. I've done everything I wanted to do with it. What's the next thing? So in a way, like, I don't know, sometimes I struggle with this concept of mastery because I'm like, do I need to spend 20 years being a photographer or a designer to feel like I mastered it? It could be a month and you can like start a new thing. So love this pattern of like mastery. I feel like you guys are kind of going through.
I think that we also look up to those people that do master. You know, when you see that story of like the guy in Japan who like just focused on a chair his whole life, like that's also, there's something really cool about that too, that we're like, damn, like I feel like I'm like, I don't know, for me, I'm like, I wish I could do that, but I don't have the attention span for it. And I think also like in this day and age, it's different now, right? Like to focus on just one thing when you're expected by work or whatever it is to do like a bunch of other things, it makes it tough to just focus on one thing where you might feel like you're behind or you feel like you're left out. And I think we also sometimes have that feeling. So it comes from play, but there also is like a pressure that it comes with of just like not being left behind. So that I would say is like the con of it too. But at the same time, like, yeah, I think we just, it goes to the concept of play. It's like just carving out the time to do it, and following momentum is really the key. It's like she said, like if you feel like doing it, just do it. There's no, like, you don't have to impress anyone, just do it for you. And then when you build up the skills enough and you want to show it off, show it off.
Okay, so when it comes to Recess, which is a big part of why we're here today and also where we are, it's described as a place for community, for people to come together to learn skills and meet other people. And we kind of talked about this a few minutes ago about play, which I really want to get into in a few minutes. But before that, Shanik, I'm going to point it to you. I not only want to know what inspired Recess and why you felt the need to start it with Celeste, but I want to know why you called it Recess. So let's start there, and then let's talk about what inspired you to start it.
I'm trying to remember that story. I don't even remember. I think originally, so like when I got that camera, like I was talking about, I knew Celeste since high school, and I got that camera during like university, and me and her would just always want to do like photo shoots with it, just random photo shoots and things like that. And Celeste was like, if you meet Celeste, like, you know, Celeste, like she's just unapologetically
It's amazing
herself,
Yeah.
creative, will come up with like all the creative prompts and things like that. So she would always have ideas to like try things. So we would always shoot things. And over time, it was just like, we want to make this thing. And it was like, if we made it and it felt good, it was like, yeah, just keep doing that, right? So we were seeing what like just playing was doing for us. I know for me specifically, like I can't speak for Celeste, but I know that for me, it was allowing me to like meet other people. It was allowing me to just see the joy in like other people when they try something and they have that holy shit moment of like, oh wow, that's cool. I didn't realize it was that easy. That's what I always found, because people would be intimidated by like, it was like, how do you know Photoshop, or like how did you learn how to make music, or whatever it might be. And it was really just like take a step back and like try. So over time, like me and her, we used to have, it went through a lot of iterations. Like it was just me and her in the past. And then we had this, it was dumb, but it was this thing called Addicted to Procrastination. It was an ATP. That was the old one. There's some business cards somewhere still. That was the name of our site and everything. And that was like, we were doing like photo, I was doing video. That evolved into, as we like met people over time, that evolved into something called Stir, which I won't even bore you with like why it was called that, but that also ended up evolving into something called Sandbox. So Sandbox is probably when we had like the first like group of friends together, and that was meant to be just a gallery, plus like we wanted to make like a newspaper publication, like doing creative profiles on cool people we knew. And it's just in classic like creative, not really focusing on the one thing and doing 50 things, we didn't do that publication, and we ended up doing like different events and things like that. A big spark was actually in 2011. We did an event called Deviant Minds, me and Celeste, and it was about focusing on people taking a break for their mental health. We were young at the time, and we just like saw like a lot of people older than us would like always be burnt out from work and didn't know what to do and things like that. So we just wanted this event of awareness basically. But that event was cool because it was the first time that we just like tried a public thing. And then from there it was like, oh, this is cool. We can like keep doing this. Even within that, I remember there was a day where we had to make the promo video, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we did a kinetic type video, which is basically like when words fly on the screen as like someone talks. It was big at the time. And
Sounds cool.
and I was like, I wish we could do that. And I just remember her and the other guy we were doing the workshop or the event with was like, so why don't you do it? And that was like a moment where I was like, okay, I guess I'll figure this out or try. And you had to learn After Effects. So that's how I learned After Effects, and I learned about like motion and things like that. So it was like that event was like the event, plus I like learned something also, like a tool within the process as well. So that taught me that every time I do something, or every time I want to learn something, to just like have a side project or like figure out something. We do it to this day, like trying to figure out like how to make a site with this like website builder. It's like, well, why don't you recreate this thing that we need, or create this thing that we need, and then you'll like learn those tools. So just over time, like I was seeing what it did for me. There was also a point where I was starting to meet a lot of creatives in the city, because I would just come down to like, it was weird. Like I didn't have internet at home at one point because my mom was like, you're the only one who uses internet, so like you pay for it. And I was just a broke freelancer. And I was like, I'm barely affording the bus right now. I was like, you want to give me a bill? And then it was funny because what I ended up doing, like I was actually coming downtown to like now TMU, and I would use my sister's login on the school computers, and every day I would go there to like use the Adobe Creative Suite. Like I would come a 40-minute train ride or whatever it is, and and it was during like summer, so summer school is happening, so the library's kind of empty, so it's just me there. But within that, I would like meet people. It was kind of random, whoever was there. And I remember one day, there's this girl who's part of Recess now. Her name's Tanna, and she was like sitting there and was like, oh, can you like watch my stuff? And then she left, and then I just like look at her screen, and she has like some video editing going, and I'm like, oh shit, there's another one of us. And so she came back, and then we just started talking about like video editing and things like that. And from there, we like developed this friendship. I don't even know how long I've known her now. It's probably been like 10 years now or something. And the reason I say that is because that was one of the people I met during that time. And what I ended up doing was like, let's create like a video series documenting people's career paths, which was like not happening as much in that moment. So I created the series, documented 5 people, made like a whole landing page website for it, put it out as like a series. And that one was crazy because I met those people. That was my way of meeting people. It was like, I want to do this video on you, but it was really just me wanting to meet the person. And then from there, those videos were cool because if I look back on them, technically they're just like beginner Shanik or whatever, but those videos are what snowballed into like, this person brought like those other connections, or this person became part of Recess, or this person introduced me to like a gig that ended up taking me on like travels somewhere. Like it was just a snowball effect of things. So, and it was just because I just wanted to make a series. It was like, I just wanted to do it for fun. So from that, like, that's whenever someone says they want to do something, it's like, just go for it. 'Cause there's nothing holding you back, to be honest, especially in this day. Like, use your phone, whatever it is, like, and that will snowball into things. I've never had a client project that was like, it was never like, oh, you did this thing for Air Canada, like, we want to hire you. It was more just like, oh, we saw that random video you put out and like, we want that style. So it was always the side projects that developed further. Recess from there, like Sandbox was like this like 1.0 iteration, and then Recess was, I don't know, just different people were hanging out with us, and some people just didn't have the time, and things like shifted. And then you have like a core group of people that stayed. But then Recess, I think it was similar. It was just like we had this event at Lululemon in 2016, 2017, probably messing up the year, but that was also a panel talk again on like people who have full-time jobs and are doing creative things on the side. It's almost like this podcast, like you guys talking to people who like have jobs and doing the creative thing. So we did this panel talk, and even within that, like this other guy who's part of Recess now, like Sanjeev, he was part of the panel talk. I met him through that. But that was the first event that was actually called Recess. So it stemmed off an event, and Recess was about like taking a break and just like playing. And that was part of like an installation and everything. And then from there, to be honest, like Sandbox was just, we just kept seeing the name pop up a lot. And we're like, we just got to change the name. So Recess was like a direct, like it just made sense of like playground stuff still. And we already did an event with that. So we're like, Recess like works well. Yeah.
Love that. That's crazy. I love all the iterations that it's gone through. I think at the core though, it's like, so we've been mentioning play, and I think there's maybe some people who might not like understand what play is. But I actually found this article, and I want to just quote the article before I quote you, Shanik. So the article says that play is one of the primary ways that children learn. As we get older, however, we begin to worry about the opinions of others, and then gradually we stop playing. Research has shown that adults who make time for play reap the benefits in terms of greater productivity, more creativity, and greater health and happiness. And so that's for those who might not understand play. It literally is like carefree exploration. Doesn't even need to be creative all the time. It can just be finding things out. So Shanik, you did a interview on TVO
Shout out
today.
TVO.
Shout out TVO.
I'm not going to repeat it because I want people to go and like find the YouTube, because it's a great interview. But I took away 5 key takeaways that I want to highlight, and it kind of comes back to Recess. So number 1, the importance of play and exploration. Low barrier creativity, which I think is like such a fascinating topic and something that Recess does really well. Authenticity over monetization, connection to community. And something that I took away was like the wabi-sabiness of creativity. Like it doesn't need to be perfect. Creativity can feel like an unfinished package, or it doesn't need to be like polished to be great. And so when I was listening to this article talking about hustle culture and making room for play, I felt like, wow, Recess just solves that problem. Like, not problem, but it solves like that pain point that people might experience. Like when you and Celeste had that pop-up, or was it a pop-up? The event for people who you noticed were like, as someone in my late 20s, I would go to that event because I feel burnt out and I feel tired and I want opportunities to create without an objection, create without an expectation of like, I have to post this and it has to look really polished. Was that always the vision for Recess? Like to create this space for people, like on the website, it says for people to come and meet others and learn new skills. Was that always like the main kind of mission of Recess, or did you always want to have other objectives with it as well?
Yeah, I think one thing I would note is that we never approached it from this like, I don't know, like mission statement, like company way of doing things. It was always just like, we just would do things, and then we had to like create language so it made sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the thing that you were talking about, like trying to put yourself in a box, like is like emulated with Recess. Is like, I guess if we have to call it something, we'll say this, just to like help you understand it, like from where we're coming from. But this could be anything you want.
Yeah, like it honestly it was like a group of friends. Like I know everyone personally before. It was never like, hey, you're skilled, join. It was like we had a friendship prior. But I think that like when you say the things about what we wrote on the site, which is like meet people and like try things, that definitely is like something we always want to be what resonates. Like we don't care if you come to a workshop and you're like technically great at the end of it. It's like, did you touch the camera? Did you wiki the DJ thing? Did you whatever it is, like did you write a sentence, whatever that is? It's like, did you just try it? Did you like meet others? Even if you didn't talk, you just sat there. We just want you to feel like the space is welcoming for you to come to. And it's it's breaking that sense of like isolation. Let's say at home, you're like sitting at home, you just want to, because some like I am the example of like someone who like doesn't want to go to the party, but also doesn't want to go to like the boring thing at the community center. Like I just want like the in between. Shout out to community centers, huh? But like I just wanted that in between thing where it was like you just met cool like-minded people, but you also didn't feel like you were going to this like party that felt cliquey or whatever it might be. So yeah, it really was just like this place where you can again like play, try things. What I like to think of it now is like growing up show and tell.
Love that.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It's just like yo, I made this thing, like check it out. That's kind of what it is at this point. And it's all about like embracing your weird as well. Whatever makes you weird, like embrace that. And that's what we want to be on Showcase. So yeah.
One thing that I like felt a lot when I was like looking, I mean, I've kind of always known a little bit about Recess, but when I was looking more about it and then also just talking with you guys, one thing that I'm feeling is like a sense of mentorship from the community. Like, I don't know if that's what your goal is, but for someone who like never had a mentor, and I still don't feel like I have a mentor, whether it's like I don't really know who I would look up to creatively because I've never had that, but I've always wanted it. And so like when I think about Recess, I think about I can like lean on people or learn from people, and you feel like you can ask people. Like it's an approachable community. Like if I had known about this maybe like 5-10 years ago, maybe my path would have been different because I could have leaned on people and asked them like, well, how did you do this? Because the thing is like Recess allows you to share. I think sometimes there's this culture within, I don't know if it's just the creative community, but
Gatekeeping?
sorry?
Gatekeeping?
Gatekeeping a little, like being really private about how you did something and not wanting to show your process. And I find something very valuable about Recess because people younger or just getting into creative fields or curious about it can come and do a poster making workshop or a candle making class, and they can ask the facilitator right there, how did you get into it? And then they can explore and learn. So I think there's this subtle like mentorship piece, at least from my perspective, that it's just so valuable for the community because not a lot of places are like that. Like there are really great creative orgs in Toronto, but I notice a lot are like apply to get in. There's 10 spots to get in, or like submit your portfolio. If it's good enough, you'll be in the community. Whereas Recess is like the door is always open. Just come in for an event. So I just kind of like not really a question there, more of like an appreciation for like what Recess does.
Can I ask you though, was there like a celebrity or something that you would look up to? And
Not really. I reference this person a lot. Sean Brown only recently, and I think the reason why is because he does so many things and he doesn't put himself in a box, and I just find that so inspiring because like I like to think that I can do anything. Similar to you, like I think for a long time I would call myself a photographer, but lately I feel nervous picking up the camera because I feel like I haven't done it in a while. And so I don't feel like it's like my thing anymore. And professionally, I'm a designer. So I feel like if someone asks what I am, I would say like I'm a designer. But I even then feel like, well, what am I actually? And so someone like Sean Brown, probably for me is like, I know that there's a lot of, I think he probably has more of a celeb status now, but it's not that makes me interested. It's more like he designs clothes and then rugs and then physical spaces out of like shipping containers, and then he directs music videos, and like how it shows me that like when you're really dedicated, and I'm sure there's other factors like connections and stuff, you can do everything and you don't need to put yourself in a box. So
because there's also the difference too, like when you say connections and stuff too, is like if you look at like a Sean Brown or something, it's like commercially he's had success and stuff, but there still are people doing that as well that just might not be like, you might not be seeing their stuff, yeah, but they're doing the thing and they're happy, yeah. I don't think I ever, did you have a mentor? I never had a mentor.
I had mentors, but they're not like celebrity status. They're not the types of people that you would have like on Twitter, like doing thought leadership shit. Like it was like this is a person that I like have worked with in the past and I'm comfortable like bouncing ideas off of. Like I don't think I've ever had like an explicit mentorship with someone where I'm just like, hey, I need mentorship. These are like my goals. I think it was kind of just like
Organic.
yeah, like, hey, I need help on a thing. Like, oh, like, can I vent to you about this thing? And like, I have like friends for that. I have Shanik for that. Like, we can bounce ideas off each other. We can like vent, and like, I'd feel rejuvenated after. Like, that's the kind of mentorship that I need personally. So I think like an aside thing with mentorship is like, I think you need to know what you need out of the relationship, or like what your goal is for you to be able to like establish that relationship, I
and
guess.
like to get something out of it too.
Yeah, like it sounds really transactional, but like the best kind of mentorship relationships that I've had are the ones that are organic.
Yeah.
We actually do have a mentorship program that
Oh,
we're working on
cool.
that Leanne started. If you want to,
Because I love that. Like, I love helping people. Like, I like, but like, it definitely has like more structure, obviously, because it's like, it's almost like a cold call. Like, if you need help with something, like, we have experience in like the tech industry and like the design industry. So, like, if there's anything that you have questions about, like, or if you have a goal or like a project in mind, like, let's show you what we have, like, in terms of process and like resources. And we'll kind of like go from there to help you see that idea through. So this is more of like Recess is very like exploratory, like this like office hours concept, this mentorship concept is like, is this something that actually like lights a fire in you and you actually like want to pursue it as like a serious thing? Like, okay, then let's talk about it, because we all are in those spaces too. Like, if you want to go from exploratory to like serious, like let's do this.
yeah. The first one was with our homie Chief Teefs.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Shout out Latifa.
They worked on her visual identity, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like just hearing that, I didn't know Recess had a mentorship program, but I feel like it's also like the best kinds of mentorship situations happen from people who also, like you said, like there has to be like level setting about what do you need out of this, but it's also great where like the people who are offering it are like willing to share, willing to give their time, willing to like support the community. I think it makes me feel like Recess is a very invaluable like structure in our creative community in Toronto. So yeah.
I mean, building community is hard because of that, because it's like thankless, like, yeah, like it is invaluable, but like we're also like, at the time that I started, like I guess like I just got out of my job, but like, we have like full-time something else's, and like it's hard to have to like want to do community stuff if you're burnt out in another part of your life.
I do find that at times though, like when you are giving back, that for me at least, it like rejuvenates. It might be work, but you feel so good, to Shanik, your point, when you're able to, I think you mentioned this, like when you give something back that, you feel really good about it. And I think that's the essence of what we're trying to create as well, is like, there's a lot of work involved in doing this podcast, but if someone can find value out of it, that gives me a lot of joy. I actually had someone reached out, was like, hey, like, when's your next episode coming out? Because this last episode, I was kind of feeling down and I felt really good listening to it. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm trying to create. Going back to one of the things that you just shared, which was moving away from the 9 to 5 and then either focusing on Recess or freelance. I love to get your perspective on this, specifically because I think there are a lot of folks, I think both of us are included in that conversation of, is 9 to 5 really like what I would want to do long term? Is this something that I feel comfortable doing for the rest of my life? And I dabble with that idea. But for yourself, why did you make that decision? Was it difficult? Let's just talk about that if you're comfortable talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I say that a lot of things are funny. I realize you can cut that out. Yeah, like deciding to do the 9 to 5 thing, I had been thinking about it for a really long time. Like, and again, it goes back to like, oh crap, like it's not going to pay a lot. I don't know if I can like survive on my own, but like having been part of like a design team in context of like a design agency and like a product like tech company. I guess like to go back to it, like I was doing freelance like right out of school, and I was working on a bunch of projects with like clients, and I realized that I had no idea how to talk to these people. Like I was just taking on projects and like I would sell myself short. I would work really long hours. I would get paid nothing to do all of these things. And I was like, I don't know that I'm even doing this right. Like I feel directionless. Like maybe my only option at this time is 9 to 5 so I can get money, get experience. That's it. Maybe like I can reevaluate in like 10 years time and be like, okay, yeah, like it's time to do my own thing again. So I came into the workforce to 9 to 5, like with the intention of like learning these things and then bouncing.
Got it. That was always the goal. Okay.
Yeah, that was always the goal, and I got lost in the sauce.
Yeah,
like so hard. Like, oh, this is what money feels like. Like, oh my god, I like live in like the heart of downtown. Yeah, like corporate life. Like, yeah, like straight to my veins, right? Like I got so much money. I'm supporting my family.
It's such a trap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
crazy
huge trap.
Those are the golden handcuffs.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you work in tech, like it's insane, right?
Free kombucha.
Yeah, kombucha. I've never had kombucha my whole life.
Just a side conversation here. I was telling Emmy this, like how they keep us in tech or in the tech world is through free food, free events. That's like their disguise of like, you're gonna work terrible hours, but at least you get a free pizza.
Yep.
We gotta fight back. Bring your lunch.
Yeah. Who cares about your salad?
Anyways,
yeah.
So always the goal, yeah.
It was always the goal. So like, it's 2019 hits, and I'm jaded. I am like, I need out of this. Like, I am tired of this 9 to 5 thing. Like, maybe I should consider going back and doing freelance. And then COVID hit, and then I'm just like, this is probably not a good time because like I need money and all this stuff. So like it kind of just like expanded into another 3 years in corporate life. And I'm just like dragging my feet by 2022 and being like, okay, no, we need to cut ties. I'm so passionate about this because a lot of my friends are in that space too. And like, I will say right now, like doing that is not easy. And it is not something that everyone should do. Especially, I think there's like a lot of soul searching and like really knowing your circumstances to know if it's right for you. So like for me, I did the math for 3 years. Like I need to save up this much money. I need this much time to like give myself like the runoff of like, or the runway to do the thing by myself. These are all the things that could happen, all the good things, all the bad things. How much is this going to cost me? What resources do I need? What goals do I need to hit? So like, because I was in corporate life for so long, like I was also in that I was in that mindset of like, I need X goal to be, like these are my success metrics, and then by 2022, I was just like, I'm not ready. Like nothing is in place, like, which was like half true. So like at that point when you have the plan, and you know that like what makes you insecure about leaving your job, I think that's a big thing. So for example, for me, financial stability is a really big thing because I'm not just supporting myself, I'm supporting like my family. So like, so long as I know that those things are safe in the time that I created for myself to explore and to play and figure out my shit, like we can do it. And then at that point, it's just like, okay, like just need to press send on this resignation. Like just do it anytime now, like my boss already verbally like knows, like I've told her that I am out. And she's just like, okay, when is it coming? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. And then I did it. And then I was just like load off. It was great. Yeah. And then like after that, I was just like, okay, like the goal is to just do nothing. Like I have this much time to even just like vacation to just like turn off my brain from everything. Like I accounted for all of that. So like, 6 months in, like I can reevaluate and be like, do I want to do this? Like, like should I start working again? And then that's it. Like, and now it's kind of just like project by project. And like the thing that they tell you about freelance and like doing things yourself is that like thing about like insecurity, instability will never go away. That is the thing that I learned in all of this, is that like you can be so prepared,
but that voice is like still there.
yeah, but
Okay.
like you'll never be fully prepared.
But don't
Yeah.
you think there's a voice still when you work at those
Yeah.
jobs?
I was literally
Yeah.
going to say, yeah,
yeah,
there's always
like now,
still a
That's a
like
good
now
point.
it's definitely like imminent. Like
Yeah.
when I think about going back to a 9 to 5, like sometimes like it's just like, oh yeah, but like everyone's doing layoffs. Like they can hire me for like a week and I'd still get cut. And like I also don't want to do any more interviewing. Like I'm too tired for that shit. Like, like and with the way tech is right now, like no, it's like
It's tough landscape. I can appreciate the level of like planning that went behind it. I think sometimes in my head I have this like naivety. What's the word? I just feel like I'm so naive. I'm like, right, making the switch to freelance, not a hard thing. I'll just cold call a million people and get 5 clients a month. Like, I think it's for people who've never done it. It's like hard to know the toolkit. But like it makes so much sense. Financial, like finding that one thing, because like it would differ from someone who's maybe living at home. Maybe they don't have to factor in financial stability because it's like already stable. Maybe it's something else. So
I mean, if you guys are still living at home, stay home. Like I miss it. Yeah, like I have to do laundry. What's up with that?
grocery shopping,
Cooking?
cleaning.
Yeah, like why? Like when you realize that like to go home and like be taken care of, you are taking care of yourself.
It's adults' life. Shanik, to throw it at you, I'm curious to know like how was balancing Recess and like your freelance projects and things happening on the side with your 9 to 5? Like I'm asking as well as like because I'm very curious. Like we've definitely like struggled a bit with like how do you balance working full time, putting so much of your energy in your day job, and then kind of having the energy to like keep going after. Like how did you do it? Like any
How did you do it? I think that, I mean, similarly, like I was freelancing for at least like 8 years or something before I even got a full-time job. And during that time, I was doing like the things I talked about with like events and random videos I wanted to make here and there, and then I would freelance and take on all these like whatever gig was thrown at me. It's just like, oh, I can get like $1,000 here and like $500 here, whatever it was, and I was getting like that's not what you want to get paid for those things, but it would always be momentum based and all those side projects and things like that. And I think I hit a point where I would start to get called out a lot by like family or whatever. They're like people who want the best for you, but are asking like, so when are you gonna get a real job? Like things like that. And so there was a bit of an insecurity of like, you want security and like you want, it's almost like it was this thing of like, maybe people didn't take what I was doing seriously and I needed to like make that more serious, but also it was like I was doing all the things that people want to do, but because I didn't have that job title, it was like not seen like that. But regardless, what it mainly was for me was just having some money in my bank account like every 2 weeks, right? So eventually like a job was referred to me. I was lucky enough that I already was part of this studio, and like I worked at Shopify and it was literally down the street. So, and you didn't have to be in the office. You could like kind of come in and out sort of thing. So I could come back to the studio and whatnot. So I was lucky enough to get a job at a tech company, which I know not a lot of people are able to get. And so it afforded me some freedoms that a lot of normal quote unquote jobs like don't have. And so, yeah, like I worked there for a bit, but I always kept that level of like what makes me weird at the job, because that's what brought a unique perspective to like the video projects I worked on. And I was also presented with a job opportunity that was creating tutorials for like freelancers who create like Shopify stores and stuff. So to me, it was like, okay, I have control over this video series. I'm creating videos for like my people, freelancers in a way. So it sounded really cool, jumped into it. But then from there, with the way tech works, I'm sure Leanne can talk about this too. Like you get moved to like 50 other teams in that process.
It's just marketing.
Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, it's always the umbrella of
Marketing's
marketing.
also like too ambiguous.
Yeah.
So I was there for like 5 years and I was on like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different teams. I had like 9 different bosses, things like that. So things always change. So what I was originally there for changed so quick. And then it became that job that it was just like, oh shit, I'm part of the, I don't know a better word, but it was a trap. Like I was part of it. I was getting, a salary that I wouldn't be getting as a freelancer. I was getting it every 2 weeks, so I'm paying bills, things like that. So there was a point. I had a boss that literally would tell me, like, she's like, "You're part of the golden handcuffs now." Like she's like, she knew too, right? But within all that, like, I would still make a point that after work or those days where you just coast a bit at work or whatever it is, I would do recess stuff, right? So there would always be like at least like one event a month, or I have too much curiosity to like not want to go shoot or try something. So I'd still be creating videos. I'd still be doing things. So people at work would, there was this weirdness of people at work wouldn't get it. Like it would just be like, oh, you do this stuff on the side. Like, what is this thing? And whatever. It's like, you should like focus just on Shopify. But then there's also the things of like work people want to do a get together at night or something like that. And I'm like, I'm just here to work. I ain't trying to do all this. Like, it's because, yeah, we're a family. It's
That's
like,
that was the thing that I respected about you, is that like you could keep your distance, but I was just like, oh my God, let's go party. Let's go drink all the alcohol at the
but
office.
it came with because I had the community outside of it already, right?
Yeah.
So
Very good point. Yeah.
it's like,
my community.
I was like, no,
Join my community.
I have friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it would, and yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable going to those things. It would just feel like this, like I'm not like mean to people. Like I'll still deal with it. Like I'll not deal with it, but I'll still do it. And like go to these things and like get to know people. But if you were coming from a place of like just pure everything is like productivity, or everything is like, we got to figure out how to get this raise or whatever it is, it's like, what else are you doing?
It's the thing that you were saying. Like they keep you in tech so that they can put you in these free spaces, give you free food, so you can talk about work.
Yeah. It's because you're always then on.
Yeah.
You're never really off.
Yeah.
And it's also like a lot of these people get paid like stupid amounts of money, and you're like, what? Like, I don't know, whatever people do with their money, that's their thing. But like my thing is like, if you preach all this, everyone likes to say community, everyone likes to say all these buzzwords and things like that, but it's like, you now have the money, not that you have to give to the community, you can still use it for yourself, but you've been afforded this like money to have the time to do those things that you talk about, right? So you would find like-minded people at work and things like that, but what energized me more was the people outside of Shopify. And I find also in those like tech bubbles and workspaces, it's a bubble. Like people really think that is the world, and it's like outside of it is where things are like really happening. So it just energized me way more outside. It was also tough, like time wise, just get really tired and things like that. But to me, coming here was like, that's my hangout spot, right? That's like my
Recharge.
yeah, like we're not always working on stuff here, right? Like we just be kicking it, watching a movie, or just like shooting the shit. And so I think that in terms of balance, it was like not looking at it as like I have to put this much time here and this much time here. It's just like what felt good, and that was kind of it. I didn't look at it as like work and work. I just looked at it as like, I go to my job, I do that task, whatever it was, but then outside of it, I'm just living my life, and this is like, it just became my lifestyle. It wasn't like, yeah, I think a big part of it, because is like my friends here basically, and we never have like pressure on each other to like you have to be productive and like make recess a thing at all times. I do it to myself, but in terms of like being around each other, I just get energized when I see like someone doing a photo shoot and I'm just like sitting on my laptop and like I get to watch how they do it, whatever it might be. Shout out to Manny.
Shout out Manny.
Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
It did, yeah. It really did, because I think like for us, like we similarly, like work will end and we'll have a break and switch gears to the podcast. And I think like we both are not only very hard on ourselves, but we have very big ambitions. So I think sometimes it feels challenging to like, work ends. Let me know if I'm speaking too much for the both of us, but for me at least, it's like work ends and I need my passion projects, which I hate that word, but like I need my side projects and passions to like make me feel like I'm fulfilled. But then the energy to actually do that is like very hard sometimes, because the workday will end and you're like, I can't look at the computer anymore. My eyes are twitching.
That's like literally me.
It's fine to rest too,
It is, and I think that goes back to hustle culture, because I was actually talking to my best friend and we were talking about how like years ago I could never just watch a movie. I had to always have my laptop open. I had to be doing something, even if I was just like updating my website. I had to like always be doing something in conjunction with like a relaxing activity like watching a movie. We used to actually meet up for like Friday night movie and we would both be working, but we'd have like snacks and movies. So I feel like there's this element of like maybe like the way I grew up in like, I don't know, the creative world, or like capitalism, yeah, where I'm like, we have to be productive at all times, which goes back to this, because sometimes when we're so tired, I don't accept that I have to rest. I'm like, no, we need to push through. I need to like learn this new like project management software, or I need to like plan out our social strategy, or I need to learn how AI can help us. Like there's so much to learn, and I think I'm so overwhelmed sometimes because I'm like, I don't have time. I'm so tired. I don't have the time.
Yeah. There's just an abundance of information,
so
right?
much,
and
yeah.
I think I was reading somewhere where it's like there's so much information that people that are able to like, I don't know, I don't want to say like they're able to like succeed, but it's like they were talking about how the people that are able to synthesize that information are the folks that are able to like not feel overwhelmed by all the things that need to be done, all the information that's out there. But anyways, I digress.
Would it be like synthesize, or would it be like the ones who can? Is it the same thing? But it's like you don't pay attention to certain things.
Hyper
Like,
focused ADHD.
Yeah, which I feel like we all have. Social media has made us all a little crazy.
We gotta change topics.
Yeah,
So we're talking about ADHD now and capitalism.
I know. But Leanne, I would love to understand like your entry point into Recess.
I don't actually remember.
Seriously?
I don't remember.
Like you literally like summarized exactly how we met in a general way.
Yeah.
Like he literally was like, "Can we do a video?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then we became friends. It's literally what you just said.
How many years ago would you say? Like, when did you guys get connected?
2017, 2018.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
pre-pandemic.
5-4 years ago. Nice.
Yeah, because I had also worked at Shopify, and like the whole thing with like the onboarding process of Shopify and like testing out the product is like selling your own stuff. I don't know if that was like an industry secret.
We can,
At the time.
At the time, I don't know what it's
Allegedly.
like now. Not that there's any tea to spill. But yeah, so like 2017, I like just started at Shopify, and the thing that I wanted to sell was like my art, and I was like, oh, this is probably a good time, like super cash, like this is for work, like this is not for me. And then I started selling stickers, and they're like little stickers of like sneakers, whatever. And they kept selling, and it just wouldn't stop for a while. Eventually, like a couple of my friends had their sticker on their like laptop, and like Shanik saw it and was like, "Oh, who did that?" This is all like me talking about your story that you told me.
No, I was
by
doing
the way.
I was doing a gig for Brain Station. I was doing a bit, and the guy that was hiring me on his laptop was like, I don't know, Air Max or one of those sneakers. I don't know sneakers, but But I was like, oh shit, that's cool. Like whose sticker is that? And then he sent me the website. The website was cool. And then I just like hit her up and was like, yo, you want to do a video?
The rest was history.
The rest is literally history.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Interesting. And so like through that introduction, was it immediate that you were like, oh, you also do Recess? Let me be part of this.
We didn't talk for like a while after that.
No, I don't think so. I think it was just like a video and I was like, oh, cool space. Maybe. I don't even remember like being in the space.
I think naturally, what tends to happen is people naturally like, someone will bring a friend or someone will be like, oh, I'm in the area. Like, can I come by? And then they'll just keep coming by. And then it's like, it's just a vibe fit. Like you feel that like, okay, like we're hanging out a bunch now and they're creative. They're doing creative things here. And then it's natural. What ends up, the like hardcore initiate, not an initiation, but like the moment that it's like, oh, you're like a part of Recess is if you've been like put into like the WhatsApp group chat.
Got it.
That's pretty much it.
It's just a vibe
That's
check.
the initiation.
Got it.
That's the secret.
Can you handle?
Yeah. The roasting and whatnot.
Yeah, but I think like the nail to the
Oh, it's probably the
coffin.
night market.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it was the night market. So like because he knew I was selling stuff, he put me on the artist lineup, and then I sold my stickers and my prints that year. And then it was history. And then it was just like, okay, cool, thanks.
So the night market's like another like, I don't know if you need me to explain
No,
it, but
I know it is, but definitely explain it for people who might not know.
it literally is an artist market where you go, you buy stuff from artists, but we intentionally designed it so that you actually stay and like hang out. So there's like music, there's drinks, there's food. Sometimes there's like collage stations and stuff in the middle. So because just talking to artists, it's like they didn't make much from these markets. So it's like people would kind of make these like make a circle and like leave. So it's like, how do you just get the people to stay? And even if they're not buying things, like are they talking to the artists and getting introduced to them, like putting the artist first mainly? So yeah, that's basically the market. And then we started it was at 2018 I think. We've done like 3 since then.
Do you do it every year or is
We
it?
tried last year. We did. Sorry, it's pretty much this year we haven't yet.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Oh crap, we did do.
Yeah, it's gonna be like late February or something. But it's a great way for us even to like meet these artists. So even intentionally, like when we do the promo, it's like we have each artist come here to like do a shoot. Like I'll do the shoot, and that's my way of just like actually meeting you and like talking to you, so you don't feel like you're just going to a market and it's like pay $500 for a table, whatever it is, and then just do the thing and then you're out. It's like, how do we just build relationships with the artists? So that particular thing is an artist platform to put them first.
I love that. I did a Christmas market last year. Do you guys know Toronto Art Crawl? It's like, yeah, so I did, and same thing, like I paid X amount of dollars, showed up, like you just there selling your stuff while people are like judging it or loving it, and then you leave, and it's like there's no community because it's like
That's so true.
you don't talk to anyone.
We try to interact with the stalls next to us or the vendors next to us. Yeah.
So I love that concept because some people actually meet each other.
What were you selling?
I was selling photography prints.
Yeah, talking shit. Let's go.
Of nude women.
Yeah.
Which is probably why a lot of people were like, what? And then some were like, this is amazing. So it was very humbling. Some people were like, visibly, you can see on their face, they were like, how dare you? There's children here. And then there were some people who were like, this is so cool. Like, I would put this on my wall. Some people bought it. Very humbling. But yeah, no community feeling from it.
Yeah, I find some of those like markets are mostly for like exposure.
Yeah,
and, like
for sure.
Yeah, so it gets really
Yeah.
exhausting.
I won't ever do it again unless it's on a smaller. But I also had to ask myself, like, do I want to sell prints? Like, what's my goal?
You tried something.
I
You
tried
tried.
something.
Yeah, and
I
that's the
did.
most important
and you
thing.
didn't like it.
I didn't love, because I also, it's like I liked it because I got out of my shell and I like built up a lot of confidence. But I had to ask myself, like, is this who I'm, like, going back to labels, like, who am I? What am I doing? How does it relate to what I want to do? But it just sounds like night market is.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of like figuring out selling prints right now for myself. even I haven't ever done it. So you can tell me all the tips.
I'll
yeah.
mentor you.
yeah.
No, for sure, for sure. Okay, so we wanted to also break down like the creative process. And we talk we say like operations, but like I know that it's not always as deep as like operations, but how do you guys like on the back end of Recess, like how do you keep it going? How do you keep it organized? How do you like kind of handle all the intake and like planning that goes into all these workshops?
Do you,
You can start.
well, like Leanne would be the one that helped a lot, like kind of bring that together. It was very random before, not that it isn't now, but it has some organized chaos now. But before it was always just like, what am I feeling today? And like, what's like the latest email I had? Okay, I'm gonna like, that's like my to-do list almost. A lot of it is through WhatsApp chats and like group chats and things like that. Like we have, when you have those chats where it's like this one has like these 4 people, this one has like 2 people from that one and 2 people from that. Like there's different chats that are happening. And so I know it's like we kind of just know which chats to like, we talk about like organization things here, and then we'll just like talk our shit and like random project stuff here. Me and Leanne just will talk about trying different projects, but also just like talk about the state of like creativity or something. And just like we talk a lot of shit in there. Like if anyone ever saw that, we're gonna get canceled. But
Whoa, no, we're not. No, we're not.
allegedly. But I think overall, like there was a point where your Google Drive was getting wild. You like can't even find things in your calendar. It was just like it's a mix of your personal stuff plus like Recess things and stuff. So Leanne helped with like organizing a Notion backend for us, which like helped a lot. And it's something that now I can just like refer to if someone's like, oh, we want to run a workshop. It's like, okay, here's this form. Or we want to like use the studio. It's like, okay, I'm going to make this event guideline sheet that'll live in this like back end Notion. So there sort of is this home for all the docs now. So just having a home for things helps, but it's like we talked about before, you don't want to spend too much time on perfecting the project management. You want to still do the projects.
That's a good point. And so to throw it to you, Leanne, so would you say that you cover more of like the operations side of Recess? Like what would you say you do?
Yeah, like I guess like role wise, like if you had to give me a title, it is like operations lead, but that's just like formality. And so like when I had decided to commit to Recess full time, it like I was like, okay, like we want to scale to an extent. Like it's not just Shanik, and Shanik's this like huge brain of like all of the things. And I think anyone who knows Shanik is that like he has hands everywhere and like wants to do all of the things respectfully. And like we all want to help. We all want Recess to like flourish, but like we can't like if it's not anywhere, then like how do we? You need to tell like help me help you. Like I think that was like the first conversation, like the real talk of like, yo, like we want to make this happen. Like help me help you so that we can like, essentially like process is put in place so that other people can take what you have and run with it. So like, and process is so like, it's such a killer word for a lot of creatives because it's like, oh, like now I'm put in a box. Or like now you've given me like guidelines and rules. Like I don't even want to play with this. But like the way that I treat process at Recess is more of like a communication standard. So if Shanik wants it this way, let's tell everybody by way of like Notion and sure like WhatsApp. Like this is the thing. And this is how you can run with it. Because we want things to be organic with Recess, like how do you do organic stuff, right? Like how does like Shanik, like even though he is like a shy founder, like, like how do we take his vision and like multiply it? Because he can't do everything by himself. So like if one of the people on the team, like, Lorenzo or Daniel or like, that's like not Celeste, because Celeste is like a secondary brain to the, our other friends, like how do they run with a workshop if they have an idea? Because that's the idea with Recess is like, if you have an idea, let's do it. And a lot of the times people are just like, how do you do it? And we have a framework, but we don't have all the answers. So that's where your play comes in, right? Like that's where your exploration comes in, where it's just like, okay, well, this is the framework. Like, let's do all of the things. So,
Shanik, what was it like to, I wouldn't say like give up ownership. What was it like to like allow other people to like come in your brain and like action the things that live up here? Like,
Did
what
you
was
have
that
like
like?
founder
this
syndrome?
is therapy now.
Yeah. No, this is actually very this is actually a great question because I don't know if I should say this. I'm going to say it anyways, but like at the company that I'm at right now, it's been around for like 2 years. And so the COO has been kind of like the head of sales. And so I work in sales. And so he's been the head of sales for some time. And so there's been now a full sales org. We've got sales managers, we've got sales reps, we have a director of sales. And I think it's hard for him to give up some of that ownership. And he has like this founder syndrome of like, this is my baby. Like, I am kind of scared of giving this up. So anyways, wanted to provide some context because do you ever feel that?
I think I've definitely felt it before, but I've always had like Celeste was always there as someone that very much felt like, or from what I gathered from things that she said, like very much felt that there shouldn't be this like power structure ever. Like we should always just like listen to the people, and like her thing also was like do the work that's required to just find out what people want and need to like get the best out of it, and it's worth doing that. So that's something I've always taken from her. I think for me originally it was like, yeah, like I had all these ideas and you like see it a certain way, and then someone does something like a bit different and you're like, oh. You're like and you try to like coach them through it. But I think over time you just learn to like not tell people what to do, and you just like I learned to, you also just trust people, because also when you give people like, okay, I need you to do like this writing workshop originally, and at the time it was like way back, like Tanna and someone named RT had like run the writing workshop. That might have been our first like formal workshop, and it was a creative writing workshop, and it was just like, I need this writing workshop, and I don't know how to create a writing workshop, so I have to trust that they'll do it a certain way. But I give them like a template of like, almost like, give me the information you're going to give, but I'll show it in the way that like we brand our things, or I'll show it in why, like I'll be able to place into like why we're doing this. But in terms of actually running those things, it's a playground. Like you do what you do because I'm trusting you to run it anyways, right? So you know more than me at that thing, so I can't tell you how to like run a writing workshop, right? So over time it really was just trust. It also was like most people, or all the people like in her crew, like they're all talented in their own ways. So it's just knowing like what skill to like rely on, and also some of them might not want to like just do that skill. They might want to try something else, and it's just like, just let them do it. Let them mess up if they mess up as well, because especially this day and age, no one remembers. It's like, you'll be fine. But yeah, just letting it go, really, just letting ego go as well.
Oh, that's so huge. That's so key, because I feel like that's like such a great environment for people to thrive when they don't feel the pressure of like, oh, am I like getting this person's, am I meeting their expectation?
Yeah, I think like you could probably speak to it, but like I feel like there is sometimes a pressure of, I do sometimes have high expectations on like, but my expectation comes from like, if you're gonna do it, just give it the effort that's like needed. That's really the expectation, because if I feel that it's like you didn't, like you said, you wanted to do a thing and you didn't really try too hard at it, then that's when my trust like lowers a little bit, and I have to like regain that a bit, because for me it's just like, if we're doing this for other people, how do you service other people and not just yourself, right? So yeah, again, it's like a trust thing. It's just setting an expectation of like there is this sort of standard. So I try to lead by like example when I do stuff. Not to say my stuff is like the best or anything, but it's like I know that I put the effort into it. So it's just like if I'm doing that, like, and you also want to be a part of that, like I just need you to like just bring it, right?
Mm-hmm. And like also it sounds like you need to also like know your audience. Like you said, you're servicing others, so you need to like tailor it with other people in mind. Like that's your audience.
Yeah. And it's cool now, like at this point it's pretty organic of people like asking to run things. Like I don't back in the day I used to ask, and now it's like people will just ask us like, hey, can I run this thing? So my role now is more as like a filter.
Right. Does this make sense for Recess? Yeah. What would be the split right now? Like, is like 50-50 sourcing folks to run versus people coming inbound and saying like, I want to do this?
I would say it weighs more to people asking now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of requests are you guys? Do you guys get?
An example would be like just down the hall, there was someone who messaged us about like running like a workshop where they make like posters and you add like analog elements, you like scan them and things like that. People are like seeing what we're doing and they're just like, hey, would this be a good spot to... We had someone the other day come in to ask us like, do you want to use like their own space somewhere else? And they're like, we just want to bring your community. We have a film club here that I don't have any say in the movies. They just run the thing. I just do the posting and whatever for them. So it's cool because it's sort of like we've created this environment where people feel like I can try something and I can just reach out to Recess to like try that thing. Even if it's not one of our events, it's just like someone's like, I want to do this photo shoot. Can I come like check the space, podcast, whatever it is, right? So it's just creating, like you always say, like the sandbox or the playground to like just play within.
And it also, like, one concept I want to get into is, like, this concept of community. So, like, you're not just cultivating community with people who identify as belonging to the Recess group, but, like, literally people in the building, artists coming in, hosting. I know community is a big, vague concept, but, like, let's dive into it. Like, what is community? Digital community, physical community?
It's
There's
buzzy.
so many. Yeah. Yeah.
Curious what your take is on this, but I could go first. But it's I think like what's the question? Like your take on community?
What is community?
What is community to you?
To me it's just people supporting each other. That's really it. Like it's just like creating spaces for people to feel supported, knowing that you're like an ear to other people, knowing that like I have your back, you got my back kind of thing. And I think that a lot of it's just like on a local level for us. It's like we're not gonna save the world. We're not like would be great. But like it's whatever we can do at like our local level. And we never want to be like, oh, we're the only creative community in the city. Like come to Recess and we want to franchise it like the 30 different spots or something. It's like there's so many other community like niche communities doing their thing as well, and everyone serves their certain niche. And yeah, I think it's just a feeling of belonging, right? I'm sure there's an actual definition of community,
That was
but
a great definition to me. Yeah. Leanne, what's your take?
Have you read any of like Bell Hooks stuff?
Love.
Yeah, all about love. Yeah. I think a lot of what she says in her community chapter really resonates. Like I think it's been a while since I read it, but like she talks a lot about like how like community is kind of like separated because of this concept of like the nuclear family, and like how like the nuclear family is just like, yeah, so it's like separated from community. And I think like a lot of community has a lot to do with like relationships, right? Like that's pretty much like what you're saying is supporting, right? So oftentimes we think about relationships as like familial or like romantic, but I think the thing that we're trying to build on with Recess is like the more like platonic and like, you know, friendship, right? Why do we put like romantic relationships above friendships when friendships are the like the friendships that we create are given, or I guess like they give us like more honest and critical feedback, whereas like if you're in a relationship with somebody, like sometimes you just want to make them happy, so you say things that you don't actually mean, or like, you know. So I guess like that's kind of what resonates with me, and like community, and like even the space that we have is that like we give people, like Recess has a space so that they can be honest, they can be vulnerable, they can be supported by other people who are also in that same mindset, people who are also like interested in exploring, and you have people like, that's so cool, you know, like I love what you did here. Oh, also I know this person who might be able to help you with this, and this. Like maybe we could make it even bigger than this, like, you know. So I think like that's kind of what community is to me, is that like honest, vulnerable, like, but also like low stakes. What's the word that you guys were saying earlier?
Low barrier. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I botched that, but yeah.
No, I think I definitely resonate with a couple of things you said, because I also find in cities like Toronto, it's at times hard to feel connected within your even neighborhood. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I don't talk to my neighbors. You know, maybe back in the day, and I'm saying like back in the day, like, you know, their communities would be based on like, you go to church or you go to a mosque, that's your community, or your neighborhood, that's your community. And I feel like that's lacking nowadays. You know, COVID has probably played a huge role into actually making a huge divide into communities. Social media, you don't need to be out anymore. But I think a lot of folks, and I won't speak for others, but I find a lot of folks are craving it. They want to be connected. They want to find like-minded people. They want to play. So I think a lot of what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and that's what Recess is able to provide.
Yeah, we're not meant to be alone. I think like it is, like loneliness is an epidemic now. I think they've officially said it was. Yeah.
And it's not in our nature, like biologically, like we are meant to be, you know, like as a society, we're supposed to be together, we're supposed to give back. And so, yeah.
And that's how capitalism started. So when you
wait till
like
part two is gonna be crazy.
So like you take community and you break them into like nuclear families, and that's how they
You
deal
tell
with
them,
that.
you tell them.
That's how
Like
it
I said,
starts.
bring your lunch. But also like Recess was, I guess just like, not a Recess, but like just a group of friends for me. Just to take it back a bit, like I grew up moving around a lot. I probably went to like, I don't know, like 12, 14 schools or something crazy, like up until grade 6 or 7. And then the Recess, that like core group of friends sort of became like this anchor for me. So it was this sense of belonging of like, oh shit, you're weird. Yeah, let's go. So it was like, I always sort of felt like this outcast in a way that was always just like curious about, like, I'm sure we all have similar stories, but it's like, it was like building computers and like burning CDs and like just playing outside, whatever. Like I was just doing, not playing outside is weird, but I was doing like things that didn't, it's like I couldn't find my belonging a lot of times when I moved around. So and even if I found that one friend, it's like I would move right away anyways. So yeah, for me, it just became like this hangout, and that just evolved into like everyone not necessarily doing the same things, but they all had the same curiosities in a way with whatever that is in their own lane. So for me, it became like that feeling of belonging, and that to me was like community. Community is like, I think, another label of just using that word, but it probably means like different things to different people.
Yeah. But I also feel like what you just said now actually like is full circle to the conversation, because that actually sounds like a really like significant origin story to Recess, like
It's show business.
moving,
That's how we do it.
moving around and feeling maybe like the odd one out, which I can definitely relate to. I think we both can relate to that. So, yeah, like finding your community or making it, like, because sometimes, I don't know, I feel like for me, like I never found my community. I still struggle to like, what is community for me? I don't know. I feel like Waterloo didn't really have it, but I also didn't go looking because I just felt like I didn't know where to look. So you felt that gap in your life when you created it, and then what community means to you, you've applied to Recess, which like then is expelling that to like the people that join it and interact with it, which is very powerful.
Yeah. One thing I found is like people, like, this is my hack, is just like people love gratitude messages. If you see something cool that someone did, just like hit them up, be like, this inspired me. Like, don't ask for anything, just let them know. And like normally you'll end up meeting or talking, or someone will set up a call or something like that, and then you have a new friend.
I totally agree. It's a great way to get in.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even that deep.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's
It's
not.
like,
Yeah.
if you're looking for community, like community could just be the friends that you have around you, right? Like, or like if it is like your social media, like I have a lot of internet friends and they are the best. Like, and like I bond with them over like memes and like random things, and like it feels like belonging. Like, and I don't even need to know you on a significant level. Like, we're vibing and this is cool.
One of the coolest things we have is, so we have a Discord.
Yeah, which I need to know more about, because
Yeah, so we
that's
have
like
this,
a new thing.
yeah, we have this Discord chat, but it was meant to be like, it still is meant to be this, but like it's like different channels of like talk about like creative projects, or talk about music, or talk about video, talk about whatever. But the one channel that just doesn't stop talking, and it's like the same, it's just everyone's just in that channel, is the one for mechanical keyboards.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. No way.
And
Yeah.
so someone part of Recess, Jeremy, has started this keyboard meetup at the studio, and it's like in our Discord, it's the most popular thing. So it's like there's so many little niches, and they're just like all into it. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I think we had like the intent of like engaging people in Recess, but like I don't know if it's like an our age thing. But like, okay, like to be fair, like when I started like with Discord, I was just like, Jeremy, what the fuck is going on in here? Like, I don't know how to use this shit. Like, I am so old. Like, I don't know how to, you know? But then you obviously get used to it. But like, yeah, the intent was to have like conversations about different things. But like when we threw everyone, and like keyboards are like naturally like an internet thing. So like everyone who has a keyboard are probably already on Discord. So, and a lot of those like keyboard Discords are like huge. There's like thousands, hundreds of people like in
I
those.
would have never imagined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's all, like, and
Honest
there's a lot of them.
That's
like,
so crazy.
I kind of want to get into that world
Yeah.
of
yeah,
like just
it's
understanding.
interesting.
Yeah.
You should like just join a bunch.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
If anything, just come to a keyboard meetup and just
Done.
watch
That's
what
true.
happens.
Like, what do
Yeah.
they do? Like, just hear, like, I want
Yep.
to, like, it's
That
like
is
ASMR of, like,
it's
the,
yeah,
ASMR.
it is
and, like,
literally
taking it
that.
apart.
Like,
It's the
I don't know.
sounds, it's the keys.
Yeah,
it's
so
the,
cool.
So like
Wow.
they
when
did they made USB wires last time. That was the thing. Yeah.
So when we had started that, like Jeremy was curious about it, and I was like, yo, I have always wanted to get into this. Like, how? And so like when we set up the keyboard, like I was like, what? I think I might have been, maybe there's like a couple other people who didn't know anything about keyboards. They're just like, yeah. So like there's like a group of like, I don't know, there's like maybe 10 or 12 people that show up here. They bring their keyboards for the intent of you playing with the things. And everyone's like totally open to teaching you like, oh, this is the kind of switch that you use. Like, this is what it sounds like. This is what you have to think about when you buy this thing.
And that's like a case of just like respect the niche.
Yeah.
Let it just happen.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, so
Just,
just
like-
do your thing.
Yeah. We'll buy the pizza.
Yeah, we'll get the pizza.
You know, like,
And that's like, it's interesting because that's a moment of like, you have these like sub groups basically that form organically, which is really cool.
Yeah.
very cool.
I love it.
And like, and sorry, like also to add to that is like, because this keyboard Discord part of, or like the keyboard chat of our Discord, is so like lit. Like, it's very chatty. It's because it's very chatty. Even like some of us who are just like in the quieter ones, like the 3D, we have like a 3D channel, we have like video and whatever. Like some of those people in the keyboard channels will go into the other ones and be like, I'm also exploring this. Like, I'm also doing this. Oh, check out this movie that we're going to watch, right? Like,
So that's interesting too, even with your question that like that's the digital community part of it, is like is starting to form organically, and we don't know what that's going to be right now. But in terms of like workshops and meetup, we still want to encourage those things, because a big part for what we do is like IRL, like in real life type of stuff. So yeah, the digital stuff is, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but it's cool because it's like you can have a candle making, like a fragrance building workshop in person, and people who are curious can join, and then people who are curious about keyboards can join the Discord. Like it's that same low barrier. What Discord is, it's free to join. Yeah, so it's low barrier creativity digitally, physically. It's a cool space. Like it's a really cool space to explore.
And it goes back to like us not wanting to be put in boxes, right? So like you've given a space where people can niche, but then like they can go into the 3D channel and be like, hey, this is the thing that I made. And then like there are people who are like creating jewelry and stuff, and like, you know, showing their process. So it's just inspiring, but also like almost like a peripheral mentorship of like, oh, like you're doing this with that program, maybe I should learn that too. So
Have you guys thought about what the next stage of Recess could look like? Or is it more of just like continuing to do the things that we're doing now? I'm just curious to kind of get your guys' perspective. Like one thing that just popped into my mind is like courses, not necessarily like very rigid courses like BrainStation or anything like that, but like you're doing a lot of workshop, people are providing something that they're good at and sharing it with others. But I'm just curious, like,
Yeah. I mean, the courses thing is something we have thought about, which is like longer, let's say like over a 2-month period, every weekend you jump on a Zoom chat or it's in real life, whatever that is. And we do something that's a bit longer. It's almost like the mentorship thing. So dive a little bit deeper into something else. A big reason of that, to be like fully transparent, is like Recess is not a big business or anything. It's not what makes us our money every day right now. So a part of that too is like, how do we create something of value that people are willing to pay for? But again, like you want that to be as valuable as possible, because if that's what we're about, be about it. So yeah, we're thinking about like courses. We're thinking about, even let's say we made money off the courses, how do we take that and like grow into, let's say, a bigger space? And that bigger space is like for a reason. It's because we have like photo shoots happening, or people want to drop in and just like sit at a table and like co-work a little bit part of their day. So you want to like create those spaces for people. A lot of it though is just observing right now. Like, what do people do when they come here? How are people asking us about like running workshops and things like that? We get asked a lot about like photography studio rentals and things like that. So we like have this equipment that we want to rent out, but that's also like our equipment. So sometimes it's a little scary to do that. So just like growing in a way that we can provide those things that are already being asked of us on a bigger level. But like, it really was just a group of friends that wanted to try some shit. And it's grown into this thing that we're now like, okay, we should formalize this a bit more. But I don't want to give people the impression that like Recess is this like big business right now. Yeah, it's like literally out of pocket. We're trying to get into more grants and things like that. So it's just like formalizing it a bit, but we're being very careful about like scale and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't personally like the word scale.
I hate it.
I think we all use it at work.
I mean, that's the scary part about like operationalizing things, right? Like adding process is just like, wow, suddenly we have to scale. And like there is a part of it that you kind of have to be like, okay, fine, we will do it. And we need to, because like, again, like community is kind of like a thankless thing. Like sure, like we have people in the space, but that again like comes out of pocket, and we're like freelancing now.
Yeah, like people don't think about like you gotta buy like garbage bags, you
yeah,
gotta buy like
the small things, like clean up and
just all those little things. And so it's just like formalizing it. And I've had those moments where it's like, you know what, like let's just make this a business, and like let's just like studio time.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But I'm lucky enough that I have like my friends are the people that I work with on this thing. So they are people that will call me out on shit and just be like, tell you why it's like it might not work for the community, and then you have that discussion, talk it out, and then it's like, okay, let's approach it in a different way. But it always ends on value to the person that's coming in and helping them feel welcome.
Yeah. I think you can balance those two things though. Like
For sure.
at the end of the day, like there could be something where you're trying to monetize, but it's ultimately going back.
Totally.
So it's like, hey, like I want to do more things for the community, but in order for me to do that, I need some money. And so like, it's just, gotta GoFundMe.
Cupcakes, eh?
No, not cupcakes. That sesame chocolate
Yeah,
loaf.
shout out to
We
Dark
have
Horse
to
downstairs.
recreate that.
Even like a lot of people talk to us about, pretty much when I talk about this every time, it's like, there's always a confusion of why we're not a non-for-profit. And I won't get into details about the stuff, but like, there are people that I've had discussions with who are nonprofit founders and things like that. And just the system within Canada to run as a nonprofit sometimes doesn't actually value the audience that comes through, just the whole grant system and things like that. And so that's why we're taking longer to formalize, because we're trying to find alternative ways that it's like, is it social enterprise? Is it just straight for-profit stuff? Is it, whatever it is, we're just very intentional with like how we do it. Even though it looks like play all the time and things like that, it's still very much like, how do we like critically think about what we're putting out there?
And also like the low barrier to entry part. Like if we want to maintain that, like.
Yeah, for
100%,
for sure.
Yeah.
Very valid things to think about. Well, thank you both for this conversation. We really appreciate your time. We honestly give our flowers to you for the time that you've given us, the insights. We got a lot out of this conversation. We just enjoy like getting to know you guys. So thank you so much. And
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
What's next for your podcast?
That's a great question.
And why? I would ask you both questions. Why did you start a podcast? Just probably in your YouTube description already. And what's next for it?
Why did we start one? I feel like this was more of your, and like you kind of brought it up and we went off that. So why don't you answer?
I think the reason why we started it was because I think both for Emmy and I guess like we had this realization that everyone is trying to figure life out. And everyone is trying to maybe master something, and ourselves included. So like we always have conversations about like, how do I do my day-to-day job better? How do I do my side projects better? How do I just improve? And so in doing that, because everyone is on that same boat, what we're trying to create is a opportunity and a platform where we interview folks just like you guys of like, how did you create Recess? How do you go from 9 to 5 to freelance? Because there's so many people out there that are thinking like that. And so if we can provide a platform where we can capture that and then share it, it's also selfishly like I always want to know, and it allows others to also know. So I feel like that's probably why we started it.
And then what's next? It's hard because, I mean, we have so many like hopes and like ideas for where it can go. And I definitely think it's like the main thing taking like our time and effort right now. So I think there's a lot of hopes of where we want it to go, but it's like so hard to say because a lot of it's like you can try really hard and put all your effort, but sometimes it's not about how hard you work. It's about who you know, or it's about luck, or it's hard to really like figure it out. But one thing I will say is like, I think we would love to one day, like future state is like create opportunities for others, because I feel like there's some people in our lives who've given us opportunities, and I think that'll grow as the podcast grows. So my hope is like we can give back. I think that's the biggest thing. So going back to community, it's like, yes, we're a podcast, but I don't want it to always be a podcast. I like have a studio, like similar to like people walking in and out and the door is always open. It's not just a podcast. It's like a meetup in the park every summer, or it's like a gallery where we like put up like art from different artists. We host all of our guests and like have a marketplace where the people who have products can sell, or the people that do music can perform. Like, I think the biggest thing is like, yeah, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I think it's like maybe similar to your origin story, like that community feel, like growing up or like coming into our own, lane, whether creatively or professionally, like I want to create that for someone else who like me didn't have it, but now they can have that. So yeah, a lot of big hopes and plans, but I think right now it's like just keep pushing P.
That's the
Keep
best
pushing.
way to describe pushing P. Yeah.
There was one thing that you learned from these interviews.
What's one thing? Such a good
Not
question.
about us, but just like
In
from-
general.
I have
think, go ahead.
No, you go first.
I think for me, more than anything, is like, I find out more and more like everyone is on the same boat. Like sometimes I feel like I'm alone, or like, am I the only one thinking about this?
But it's like you're so in your own.
Yeah, in your own
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
don't realize everyone is like, feeling the exact same things. They're going through the exact same everything. So it's like every time I speak to folks, I feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this. I think that's the biggest thing I take away. But every interview we have, I always find some nuggets of information of like, oh, that's a cool way of thinking about it. Oh, I would have never thought about it that way. So
Yeah, I think copy your answer, same for me. But for me also, it's like we've been lucky that a lot of the people that you guys included, we kind of know you a little before we've had the podcast episode. So it's like this very humbling thing of like, we have so many talented friends and like peers, and it's nice to tap into that, like that, what's it when it's like side by side network? Like you don't need to like aim for, I don't know.
yeah, you don't need to necessarily go find like
Yeah.
the CEO
Exactly.
and get them to be on the podcast.
Yeah, like you can learn, you can like find that mentorship gap, or you can find like the answers you're looking for in life or in work by just talking to people that like you're with. And I think there's so much value in that. So yeah.
Well, it's gonna be dope. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us. I feel like we don't get asked these questions a lot. It's like she said, a thankless job. So it's not even a thank you, but it's just like sometimes you want to explain your process, but you don't want to like just be like, hey, listen to what's going on today. So it's like to get someone, it's like I was saying earlier, even just like the gratitude messages, also like ask people questions about their process, like you guys are doing it. So shout out to y'all. Because people want to talk about it. It's just they want the like moment to be asked.
Yeah. Well, we like, if it's not evident already, we're so grateful. And like, we really do thank you, because this is not like, it's a Saturday, exhausting month. It's cold as shit outside. Like, we know that this was, you know, it's a big deal. So we really appreciate everything you do for the community. We came to the poster making workshop a few weeks ago, and that was like one of the first times we were both in this space for a workshop. And it was like, you know, the vibes were a little somber because the posters were for like a protest event, but it was still like the space was there for people who are struggling mentally, who wanted to advocate for these communities. And like, that is such a great resource that like, I feel very like inspired by it. And I hope it always stays, because people like you who run communities like this have a very big impact. And it's not just on one person, that trickles. It's like the trickle, what's it called? Trickle effect? Well, I don't want to say dripple effect, but like, you know, it trickles. So we really appreciate you.
We appreciate that. And also like shout out to the people who are actually running those workshops and those protests and creating the posters and doing that work as well. I feel like there's something I forgot. But
Shout out your mom.
shout out mom.
Nita.
Shout out Nita.
No, she's the best.
And we'll figure out how to get you guys doing some stuff with Recess soon. Yeah.
All that stuff that you talked about with like what you want to do with the podcast, like your first could potentially also be here. Like, doesn't even need to be like anything crazy. Like, if you wanted to like host a thing, like we'll help you with that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Definitely would love
Let's
to.
leave your audience with one last thing. Go.
Go. It's on you.
Your turn.
One last thing, I'll just plug Recess, and leave it at that. But 401 Richmond, check out the website, check out the Instagram.
Shout out to the 401 Richmond.
Yeah.
Shout out
Yeah.
this building.
Lots of shout-outs.
Yeah, no, actually though, like I think like anyone that's remotely interested, come into the studio, try something new. This is truly a safe space, and I'm saying this from first like hand experience. So yeah, anyone who wants to try something new, this is the space to do it. So that's my last words. We're signing out. This is the Unmastered Tapes. Shanik and Leanne, thank you again.